The Uganda National Examinations Board early this week released the 2016 Uganda Certificate of Education results, indicating a slight drop in performance compared to 2016. To many observers, it was business as usual, as elite schools posted the best performance, and while schools in far-flung remote areas had dismal performance. Sciences as usual were poorly performed, while English was also performed poorly. To discuss the state of our education is Dr. Mary Goret Nakabugo from Twaweza, Patrick Ruharuza, who's an educationist in the oil and gas sector, and Henry Nixon Ogwal from Action Aid. Gentlemen and lady, welcome to the show. All of you, you're on the spot tonight. I should say the national spotlight is on you.
Thank you.
If I may begin from the far left of my side with you, Patrick, we have seen the pattern in results looking the same. Elite schools posting best results and the far-flung schools performing poorly. Yet, if you look back in history, a child in a rural school in Bundubujo or in Kotido or wherever, they could aspire just like any other child here in Kampala, and all of them were almost at the same level. Can we get back to that?
Well, I think we should seek to ask even a much more deeper, more stronger question in that direction. Because, yes, it's true that elite schools are getting good marks and students are passing well, whereas it is actually a big problem that students in the rural areas are not passing as much as those in very expensive schools. It's a question to answer. But the ones that are passing themselves, to what end? Because unfortunately, I think the bigger question and what we should be probing into, I hope we shall be able to probe into this evening, is that after passing, have these people actually gathered the kind of knowledge that will lead them ultimately towards success in life? Can they actually go, have they been directed sufficiently in their life to go ahead and become the skilled, capable, able people that we're going to see doing work on the streets of Kampala, getting employment and being able to succeed in life? Or have they been coached to pass exams? And that's the problem, that a lot of schools have been able now to master the skill of making students pass. That is not the same thing as giving a child a strong educational foundation to go ahead and be the best that they can be. And I think that's the question to answer.
Nixon, it appears what Patrick is saying, that there's a lot nowadays of children to be able to memorize things as opposed to have, imaginative composition of things so that they can imagine, they can be creative. They can get 4 A's and 4 in 4 and 8 in 8, but at the end of the day, they are low on skills. They are low on the tools of analysis. How can we change that?
Thank you, Patrick. This nation is at a crossroads. Before I even tell you that, we should all cry about the state of education, because the quality of the education is the quality of the nation. And it goes back to even the quality of the teachers is the reflection. What we are missing out right now is actually that we have not put priority on foundation of education. Basic skills should first actually be numeracy and literacy. These children who are passing so well right now, if you gave them few years, most of them cannot even read on their own, to study on their own anymore. That is a big problem. That's why in some parts of this country, rural area, old people speak English and their grandchildren can't. And yet those ones ended in primary or junior. There's a problem. So that is one basic. Second, teaching life skills right from the basic level of education, and tracking that across to higher levels. We don't have people whom many nations have who are called technicians. Where are our technicians as Uganda? That's why, you know, we are talking about getting into middle income. Who are going to be actually our industrialists? They are the people who are in the kitchen of the economy that make things work. Those skills, we have not invested in them. So therefore, they will memorize, they give you back the marks you would want to put on NTV, with the children saying, I prayed to my God, I worked so hard, and the parents carry them. Track them 20 years down the road. They are burnt down because they were not taught what to make somebody succeed.
Dr. Mary Kabugo, I understand as to whether sometimes you do research on education in East Africa and Uganda. How do we stand?
You know what Nixon has been talking about, the foundations, because the research that we have been doing over the years, we are now into our 7th year across Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. We've been looking at the acquisition of those foundational skills he's talking about, which are lacking, because the skills of literacy, the numeracy skills, right from the early years, give you the foundation to actually, the foundation for further learning. What we are seeing across the years, if you compare Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, actually Uganda trails.
And yet education was a comparative advantage.
Yes, that doesn't mean that Kenya and Tanzania are doing far much better. We are the shortest among the dwarfs. So
we are dwarfs anyway.
We are dwarfs anyway, but the shortest.
so if a dwarf can be short.
I think probably. But anyway, what Nixon is saying, I think, because you look at education as a continuum. If the foundation is shaky, then you don't expect miracles to happen at the higher levels. If you look at the analysis for the poor performance in UCE, as the Secretary General for UDEB was releasing them, issues of deficiencies in literacy, students or candidates do not acquire literacy skills in senior secondary schools. Those foundations are built right from the beginning in primary early years. They're talking about deficiencies in higher order questions because students could not engage with higher order skills. The two colleagues are talking about the gaps in our education system. Are we teaching our students to think actually? Are we teaching them those skills beyond the cramming and memorizing of knowledge, such that if a question is twisted, are they able actually to cope with it? We don't have that. And actually, if you compare that Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, we suffer the same problems. Our education system is so narrow. We are training the head, and even the head, we are not doing it very well. You see the failures that we are registering. The hands, students cannot do. They cannot manipulate things. And the heart, what about the heart? We are not teaching the social and emotional skills that are required globally. Are we teaching the students actually empathy? Are they able to, do they have the resilience that is needed in this world to cope?
So, Patrick, what can we do to teach our children to do?
Okay.
To do.
Before I answer that, I want to say this from an employer's perspective. I participated in a lot of recruiting exercises, both at our organization and elsewhere. But one thing that you realize, and the thing that we are all kind of highlighting tonight, is the fact that sometimes somebody drops you a CV and they've got a first-class degree, which means that this problem is not only in the lower ranks of numeracy and literacy, but that kind of thinking continues, the lack of inquiry in learning. People continue and they get a degree, but all the while, first-class degree, GPA is very good, and then you bring them in the interview room. Oh, you even past the interview room, give them a job. That's when you realize that this person has actually been coached through life to answer instructions. Write instructions on paper, they will know what to do. If you don't tell them what to do, most people, in spite of the wonderful grades and the great CVs, they get stuck, even at work. Now, let's go back to your question of what can we do? I think one of the fundamental problems, and of course there's no silver bullet, we do not have one problem. We have multifaceted issues that at the moment need to be addressed to make sure we can get the educational system on the kind of track that will save future generations. But one of them that we can start with is looking at the way in which skills are communicated to the children. Now, why do I think that this is something that we can address in the short run? There is an immediate comparison. A good number of well-to-do parents are moving their children into international schools, international curriculum schools. What is so different in those schools? And if you put children in the same room, you realize that their children that are educated in a particular system seem to show some lot of confidence. They're inquisitive, they have boldness to inquire questions, and they can ask questions. We have a teacher-centered system of teaching where somebody stands over here, dictates notes, you take down the notes. There is no much engagement in class, however much they try, as opposed to what is called the Socratic teaching, where inquiry, it's all about, this is the question, how can we address it? In which way you get the people that you're teaching to think outside the box. Yes, give me a wrong answer. Let's debate about that instead of the teacher being the know-it-all. And now this is how we've been educated.
But now, to change that, then you need a total overhaul of the education system in Uganda, which was left to us by the British. By the way, the British have changed their education system several times over. So how do we get to that total overhaul so that we do not just train clerks and secretaries, but people who are skilled, people who have tools of analysis, people who can imagine and be creative? Nixon.
Oh, by the way, why we have missed the train?
We missed it already?
Yes, we have. And we will have to actually jump on the bogies, what used to be called the Kayolas. The thing is that we have taken education not as, the human resource development, ministry. We therefore have thought of developing other things and have taken low priority in our development in this country. The very important thing that happened in this country was about 1991. Actually, the Kajubi Commission did a very good inquiry. Even when we just go back to that white paper, 1991, there are major recommendations there. We have just tinkled around with a few things because the answers are there. Number one, we should look at what is it that we require in this economy. What are those skills? And then develop our education plan that really enables us to develop the skills to tap into the kind of development that we require. And we need to ensure that teacher development, teacher training is at the center of this. And therefore, I agree with him that the very first thing is that the method of teaching is number one. The methodology that we use needs to change from teacher to actually looking at the student. And therefore, we need to pick skills very early. Skills picking, talent picking, and development. Children are different. The other thing, therefore, is to ensure that the environment, there's many methodologies, others are calling it, self-organized learning environment, It is very empowering. And by the way, before you know it, the children can begin to drive the teacher into the direction of what they want to learn. But they are driven by their environment. Now, let me come so quickly into the mid-2000s. The education sector learned that many children were pulling out from primary, from UPA. Why? And they were going to some very non-formal education because they were giving them skills that put food on the table and leave them with the time to do things that they would do in the community. That learning was then taken into the current law that we have, the Education Act, taking those practices that would now improve the system, but it has not been used. Therefore, if we don't improve the learning of numeracy, literacy at lower levels, then linking it to functional skills development that link to our agriculture, link to our industrial development, and, you know, Doctor talked about it, the emotional intelligence, how to work with people, how to relate. Our politics is suffering because those who are now our leaders are deficient of emotional intelligence through the education that did not teach them that.
Okay,
Dr.
Mary Gorit-Nakabogo, in this very country, in this very education system, we still find students who pass and are good even in the world of work. Whether it's an engineer, whether it's a medical doctor, whether it's, you know, any profession, you find they're extremely good. But where you also find those, like Patrick is talking about, when those who cannot do much. So what brings that disparity, that some in the same system are extremely good and they can compete at a global scale, yet the majority are not?
It's true. I think in all systems and in whatever field or sphere of life, there are those people we call positive deviants. Against all odds, those people would succeed. And I think even within our education system at all levels, you find those schools in very remote areas struggling, but you find these students who are succeeding. At the moment, there has not been any research actually that has been systematically done. Actually, my organization is trying to do that. We have a positive deviance lab where we are trying to actually research what is it that is done to those positive deviants that you're talking about. What is the secret sauce? I don't have the answers at the moment because the research is ongoing, but you're raising a very, very important point that needs to actually be researched.
We're going to take a break. Yeah. When we come back, let's look at because you've done a research on the teachers. How our Ugandan teachers, I mean, are they good enough? Are they medium? Are they excellent? Our teaching institutions, are they lacking anything? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guests tonight are Dr. Mary Gorit-Nakabogo, Mr. Henry Nixon Ogwao, and Patrick Ruharuza. We are looking into the education sector, the challenges, and some of few success stories that we have seen. But Dr. Mary Gorit-Nakabogo, you, as Twaweza, have done some kind of research on the teachers. What did you find?
We have done research on the teachers, but equally other actors have done research on the teachers, including UNEP itself. You remember the most sensational report that was released by NAPE, UNEP itself, of 80% of the teacher trainees who are not able to read or do numeracy at primary school level. So there are definitely deficiencies within this teaching profession itself, because again, if you look at the teaching profession, look at it as a continuum also. Who are those candidates who join primary teacher training colleges or secondary school training colleges? Are they the ones who are highly motivated? Are they the ones who are highly qualified? Or do we still have a majority of teacher trainees joining teaching as a last resort? How many of those put it as the first choice? When you go to the training itself, what is it that they're trained in? Is it too much in pedagogy or methods of teaching? What about the content and the skills that they're going to teach? We've been talking about the issue, the narrowness of our education system, focusing on the facts and cognitive skills or the academic, and the gaps in the social emotional skills. Are the teachers actually equipped to teach these social and emotional skills? So when we are talking about overhauling the education system, like everybody is calling for that, we have to overhaul the entire system, because the teachers who are going to teach in the system have to be retrained or refreshed. And what we are seeing at the moment, to be honest, teachers are doing a good job, because they're really, some of them are teaching in very, very difficult conditions, but they're trying all they can. But we can do better as a nation.
But Nixon, the way how we are assessing our children, is it the right way? For example, if a child passes an exam with an A, should we just take that as an indication of how that child has been in maybe an entire 4 years or entire 7 years? Or maybe the assessment should change and the grading should be different, not just to look at just single 3 hours in an exam?
Thank you very much, Patrick, for that question. What doctor has told you, they are the 3 H of education. The cognitive, the head, education, the hand, the heart, the skills, the emotional intelligence, values and such, and the knowledge, and the knowledge. You need to assess all. And you need to ensure that the education needs to interlink all these. If you don't do that, you're giving a very wrong signal to the learner that what matters is just what you have in the brain. And you see, right now, that's what we are really scoring, and somebody will score those A's very well. But you see, we have found also that they might be very frustrated in life, and you lose them. Some go mentors because they are really frustrated. They fail to manage realities of life at a workplace. So I think that the method of assessment should look at all, and should also link all these, and should also not be terminal. You wait to assess me in primary 7, yet I've been studying for 7 years. And by the way, it is even a policy that I should not fail a class or be held. You just keep pushing me. And primary 7, you terminate me and say, you know what? You have not memorized enough. You have not assessed my skills, how I can make beehives. You have not assessed my skills, how I can do so many other things, probably beyond that. That's not right. Then we have also not assessed the values of the child as they grow. So this must be periodical, must be ongoing, must be motivating, and must also be in such a way that it helps to reevaluate a child and link to career building, career assessment, so that a child therefore is being helped to grow and move towards what they love most, what they have abilities in, and they are motivated to continuously grow in whichever area they
Nixon, what he's talking about also, he has brought in the element of values. Can we introduce a lesson of values? Because at the end of the day, a population that has no values, of course, it will be having corruption, it will be having all these kind of conflicts. But at what point do you introduce a value kind of education that maybe at the end of the day will help? Because I'm told in some economies like in Japan, for the first 10 years, really, they are giving them lessons, a foundation on values.
Surprisingly, for the first 13 years of education in Uganda, we train our children to cram things. There is no specialty. We do not even, our system does not attempt to identify what a child is good at and try to kind of gravitate them towards that side. So for the first 13 years, they are learning everything, botanical names, whatever they will. At the end of the day,
the prairies and all this.
Yes, and at the end, maybe they may never be any of whatever they've, perhaps a big percentage of what they've been learning. But that aside, just to move to the question of values, I think it would be a bit difficult to assume that we can start training values purely at school. That's why the education system, and perhaps something I would want I want us to talk about a little bit, is the fact that things have changed. Values of course, are taught largely from the environment the child comes from at home. You learn values, and the cultural institutions, church and other, they shape one's values. Now, but also going towards where the world is going, one of the biggest challenges I see that we have experienced as a country is the fact that there's been a very, very slow reaction to changes that are going on around us. The world is not what it used to be. If my good old school, St. Leo's College, and then after Nyakasura School, if they tried to do what they did, what made them excel in the 70s and in the 80s, right now, they will be in the 80s, and everybody else will have moved on. And so the reaction to change in terms of teaching methods, in terms of the kind of support that a particular school would need to excel, because life has been commercialized. A lot of the teachers are teaching their motivation, whereas back in the day, our parents were teachers, and they had a love for teaching that was less influenced by money than it was influenced by the need to develop their career and the joy of teaching. And they were happy with the little they had. But today, the need to make sure that money is available to do things influences a lot. So you end up with a class of 1,000 students. 1,000 in one class for schools that can manage to collect them. And you end up with one teacher teaching 7 schools. And there are no controls in place. There are no measures to try and move with the times, find solutions that will keep a particular institution or a school moving with the challenges that the times are facing. Commercialization, change of culture, access to information. Our children are not the kind of children who used to come to class and they don't know anything. By the time they sit in class, they're already updated with world news because everything is on the phone. And so we need to look very, very strongly on what people that are succeeding in this. We need to benchmark correctly.
Nixon, what is the role now? Because the first school, I suppose, is the home, like Patrick is saying. There you get values and even the first elements of study. Then the community and the formal school. Are the parents missing? Are we doing our job like our fathers did?
I think some of us and those older than us were very lucky indeed that education was taken as holistic, everybody's responsibility. If you were found playing on the road and you were getting late, any villager would actually pick a stick and cane you. So it meant therefore that the total village was interested in the growth and development of a child.
It took a village then to raise a child.
Exactly. That was taken away from us and put in English, but it's an African wise saying. And therefore, unless we also ensure that those positive, strong, and useful, African village community values are still shared and nurtured and used to raise, those who are progressively important in our community. Because right now, if you only left to families, which should actually be at the center, we also have fractured families. Families in Uganda were very related and closely knit to one another, and they would support in paying fees, support in, we are sending you to go and stay. That would be probably, doctor, as a young girl, you are going to stay with your auntie over these holidays, because they want the auntie to train you in a number of things, which was self-development. So I think right now, because of challenges of making a living for those who are in town, children are left to the TVs, for instance, and the maids. And the maids also of these days are not those ones where it would be your auntie who has been brought to help you, who would actually be reinforcing the values that are known. This unknown person who has come to work for money, you have not done background check. So all these are serious problems. And then there's also a lot of pumping at school So when children come home, if you, a parent, are actually there, then what you are doing is to help the children with the homework, not the values education you're talking about. Then certain things we have also killed with the town life. We grew in the evenings at fireside, telling us folk stories. Those folklores had very deep meaning. Having told you, then they would say, the moral of this story is, ask the children growing now that pull for us some 4 or 5 morals you pick from your society and tell a story around it. They can't.
Okay.
So I think this, therefore, has weakened. And because the family ties have weakened and all that, and the challenge of livelihood, it has actually made it worse. Okay,
Dr. Nakabogo, how about the issue of the inspectorate division of the Ministry of Education? Because Patrick alluded to it there, that back in the day it used to be robust, that you knew if the inspector of school was coming, then you really have to prepare and make sure the school is clean and the children in class. But now, are there inspectors? Is the inspection division, because you do research, you know, serious?
Yeah, there are certainly gaps in that, because you find schools which have spent, or teachers who would tell you that they have spent 2 years without having been inspected. But also, we need to look at the education as a whole system. How many inspectors do we have actually in the system? That's a question. Should we entrust the role of inspecting the schools only to the expert or professional inspectors, or is now time actually to empower community inspectors? Who is closest to the teacher than community, than the parents, than the local leaders, than the religious leaders? So I know I'm not here to defend weaknesses in the system. The inspectors definitely in the local government have to do their job. But the excuse that they're telling you is lack of resources. I don't buy that.
Patrick, some of these schools are church-based kind of school, church-founded. You and I went to the same school at one point, St. Leo's College, Chegobe. But now, when you go back, it's not like how it used to be.
Again, that points to weaknesses from oversight. And oversight, I'm not talking about the ownership of the school, and which has become a problem. Unfortunately, what was a good thing and perhaps did well with other sectors within the economy had very bad downsides to it. I'm talking about privatization here, where pushing for a private sector-led growth in areas. Now, in education, if I own a school, the power of the owners of the school at some point were so great that parents would literally beg the headmaster to keep the child in the school, the owner of the school. And unfortunately, some owners do not have any knowledge about education other than the fact that they've invested finances into it. And so you find a school which was very strong, and I can say because the government oversight was strong, the inspectorate was strong, and but together with that, there was other cultural and traditional values that were coming from homes and that were keeping children in a particular way. But these things changed, and there was a massive change. The level of corruption that you have to fight now, I'll give you a simple example. What if I know that an inspector has the power to close my school, okay? With the rampant corruption in some of these areas, what is so difficult to imagine that a particular group of inspectors can be silenced, can be compromised? So those are possibilities. And if that happens over a period of 3 years, what do you think is going to be the state of affairs in that school? One, governance. if governance, just the last one, if governance of the school is left in holistically, the entire governance of the school without any institutional oversight over them is left to the ownership of the school, what is going to be the footing of that school? Is it going to be pure commercial, or is it going actually to pursue the old version?
Hold on to your point there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, let's get into that. But also, I'll be asking, we have seen most schools in Uganda, they do not even have sports fields. You find a school in sort of an apartment, and you know, children are no longer doing co-curricular activities. How does that impact the life of a child? I'll also be opening the lines so that you two at home can give us your contributions. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guests tonight are Mr. Patrick Haruza, Mr. Henry Nixon Ogwao, and Dr. Mary Goret Nakabugo. Dr. Mary Goret, I have realized that it is hard for a parent today to tell their children to take up a course, maybe in tailoring or plumber or, you know, carpentry. But, well, you can encourage a child to cram the priories and all that and get an A and go to university. How do we, yet at the end of the day, when you go to a community, the community will always need such a person, a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, to fix things. But most of our children cannot do that. So why have we put, we sort of pushed prestige as opposed to practical things that can help us?
I think the issue is with the education system and the richness of the curriculum that we have in place. Is it possible to integrate some of these practical skills into the curriculum itself? Because here we have, of course, some schools actually have such integrated curriculum. If you look at the international schools he was talking about, the Aga Khan schools, they do teach such skills. You go to Mengo Secondary School, I think they teach such skills. I think we need that across the curriculum. We should not just wait until these students have actually failed O-level or primary 7, because normally that is now the track. We are not saying practical skills are for the failures, but apparently that is the message that we are sending. Because we are saying, oh, if we have these ungraded students, they can go to community technical colleges. Or if they cannot go to A-level, they should go to colleges. Shouldn't we have these skills actually integrated within the normal primary and lower secondary curriculum? We talk about other issues like the co-curricular activities. You know, the skills that we are talking about, the social and emotional skills, they're actually not really taught. You are not going to teach students to be cooperative, to work in teams, to self-regulate. These skills are nurtured. And most of these skills are actually to be nurtured outside the classroom. So where you don't have these outside the classroom academic environments, where students actually demonstrate and problem solve in real environments, they're not going to learn these skills. They are not really taught, they are nurtured. Yeah.
So the issue of co-curricular and sports vis-a-vis the commercial schools which have been started by business people and they do not have all these facilities, at the end of the day, you have a child who knows nothing about sports and games and even handwork now. We used to do, back in the villages where I come from in Chenjeju, we used to do handwork where at the end of the day, every year, you have to submit. I wonder if they still do it. Well,
I think that this is a big wheel, Patrick. It's a big, big wheel to turn. And we are advocating, and I know the government is doing its bit and everybody is chipping in to contribute towards the debate of changing the education system. But this is a humongous task. There are quite so many other small facets that need to be changed. In the meantime, while the education ministry and the different commissions underneath that are working towards introducing new curriculum and introducing technical education, because these are debates that have been going for a very long time, and I know that the point has been made regarding this thing. I think one of the things that we can do in the interim that can be achieved even in the short run is fixing what is going on right now. Let us make sure that even what we're doing now, we are doing it right. If only efforts can be made, that people who are teaching in the right way, and that they are going to school actually. Because this is what is happening in the village. I happen to participate in a lot of primary school activities in the village. But the level of teacher absenteeism is alarming. Put that aside, the skill level of the teachers is terrible. Just the sense of hopelessness around schools. So let us fix these things. Let's fix these simple things.
Why is it that at every beginning of term, across the region, our borders open up and the children flock into Uganda almost at every level? And yet we seem to paint a picture of doom and gloom.
Patrick, before I even respond to that, I also don't want us to look at it that every skills and the teaching should come from the four walls. That's why I still get back to the families, to the community. We were making a lot of those crafts. I studied, I was groomed in the rural area too. But you see, they would bring a person from the village who makes the winnower to show you. Because some of these teachers probably also had not made it. So they would pick somebody who knows. Teaching of these skills only needs integration with the people who are actually doing it. Apprenticeship is a very easy program to actually run. It's not as expensive as we imagine. So if we are going to wait until we have such teachers, it is not that. So secondly, I would want to say that we have had ABEC, the Alternative Basic Education for Karamoja. There was BEUPA. There was others by ActionAid. These were functional adult literacy, functional non-formal education programs. They were more on the side of skills because it was driven by the needs of the community.
And the needs have not changed.
And they have not changed, but you see, the thing is that we have pushed it down and we have been killing it. Now, going forward to your question really is that there are certain centers of excellence in this country. I still would want to say they are there. That you find there is some schools called agro-secondary whatever school somewhere. There are a few that strongly have integrated agriculture. And when you go there, you actually find those students come out very smart as far as agriculture is concerned, even when they go home. There are schools that she was talking about, like Mengo. You go to other schools, they do boxing. So schools have got their specialties. And some of those schools have actually brought some of these very smart outliers you were talking about. But we need good data. But on the overall, some of those centers of excellence, some of them are very attractive. Our teachers, there's the robustness of our curriculum and the background to our teacher education is actually good. Only that there is a need to focus them to deliver within a certain method and certain number of children to get quality. So when these teachers have left the country, out of this country, they are actually one of the best teachers.
Let me take a few
So because of that, then let the neighbors will always come.
I know Ugandans tonight will want to participate in this debate, so I'm opening the line so that you too can be a part of this discussion, and I'm taking the very first caller online. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Seth calling in from Jinda.
Seth, go right ahead, sir.
Thanks for the program, Mr. Patrick.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have 2 points to put across. One is the new curriculum that has been developed for senior 1 to senior 4 for all level. Yeah, very beautiful curriculum was developed. Yeah, with the help of the World Bank, but has been abandoned by the government on grounds that there isn't enough money to take on the curriculum. Yeah, the curriculum that is aimed at skills development and critical thinking. Yeah, My other point is that issue that I think is crippling our education in Uganda is the attitude that we as citizens have. We think that education is all about going to university. You enroll and then you must study and go to university. So that attitude, to some extent, has also crippled, our education system.
Thank you.
Parents think that their kids must go to university. So if you do not go to university, then you're considered a failure in society. I think that also must change if we are to achieve something.
But some of these technical schools across Uganda have all been turned into universities.
That's the big challenge. We don't need all those universities. The technical schools are exactly what we need.
Thank you very much.
They've been turned into universities, and it's creating unemployment. Everybody. So many people are graduating, but they can't do anything.
Thank you very much. Let me take maybe 2 or 3 more calls, and then we can wrap it up in the studio. Hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Patrick and the panelists.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bernard Deumo. I'm calling from Ngora District, Eastern Region.
Go right ahead, Bernard. You're on air.
I want to appreciate all submissions, but I think our biggest problem is the people who are managing our curriculum. One, when I was still young, at school level, we used to have what we called conversations, and that helped us to develop communication skills. We used to have art and craft. That helped us to develop survival skills. We used to have horticulture. At secondary level, we used to have TD, technical sewing. We used to have woodwork. All that has been abandoned. Then music, dance, and drama is no more. When you come to sporting activities are not there. So the country is responsible for the problems that we have. Then finally, Patrick, when you look at the ratio of technical schools compared to these academic schools, you can really see the intention of government. You can see the intention of government. In South Korea, you find that where there is a secondary school, there is a technical school, meaning that they are concerned about skills development.
Thank you very much, Bernard from Ngora District. Let me take 2 more callers. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening. How are you and what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm called Betty.
Betty, where are you calling from tonight?
I'm calling from Entebbe.
Go right ahead, Madam Betty.
From Entebbe.
Yes, go right ahead, Betty.
Curriculum specialist.
Okay.
All those issues are kind of eye-openers to Ugandans. But the way to go is to go to TVETs, technical education, to improve our education systems. How can we do this? Instead of taking the students to the finalists of Bakere to Chankwanzi, let the government take the finalists to Chankwanzi. They get the military skills for discipline.
Betty, the problem is that there is an echo. You are listening to yourself. Do not mind about the echo. Just continue making your point. Don't listen to yourself, Betty.
Yeah. Then they also give them the education skills that they need, and at the same time, given the resources that they need to have, the practical skills, whether they did economics or mathematics or whatever. So they can get people they can source out people who are technical or skilled in various areas. Then they impart knowledge and skills to the various calibers of students there. Then they get out. For instance, if we look at the building industry, we get the students to Chankwanzi or wherever they can be put. Then they are trained and they get the skills. Then instead of a government employing expatriates to come and build, they pick the skills from the resourceful people from wherever they've gotten the training from. Then the money goes to our students, and that will also solve unemployment to Ugandans. I've tried that, and I've written a concept paper about that.
Thank you very much, Betty. Thank you very much, Betty, from Entebbe. And by the way, I'm told Rwanda is actually trying to reduce the universities, but building more technical schools and colleges as opposed to having many universities. Let me take the last caller online. Hello.
Hello. This is Godfrey. I'm calling from Kampala.
Yes, Godfrey. Go right ahead, sir.
Now, I would like to first of all downplay the method of assessment. The examination that is given at the end of the period, say 7 years for primary and then 6 years for A-level, that is not fair. In my opinion, I think that it should be a continuous assessment. Maybe in the last year of education, that person should be evaluated for the entire 1 year, something like an internship. For instance, a technical drawing student can be given a project. Maybe that year, if the school has a pit latrine to build, they should draw the plan. You see, so in that way, the student himself will have pride, see something that they did, and gain the confidence and know that yes, I can do this, and I can take this on as my own job. We keep talking about self-employment, but we don't show these people the way to self-employment. We only give them academic knowledge.
Thank you.
So that is, I think the total system has to be overhauled, and a lot of changes have to be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I understand there are so many people who want to contribute. And in the interest of time, maybe let me take just one more, and then I can give this gentleman and lady in the studio to make their final concluding remarks. Yes, sir.
Hello, this is William from Entebbe.
William in Entebbe, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
I think about the sector, we should look back to our root back, where we came from. If you look at the universities, okay, we changed, like now I can give you an example because I went to Chambogo. It was polytechnic and used to really develop good people and hands-on. You know what we need? Hands-on people that comes out and know what to do, both skilled and also academic. But now when you look at what the university is producing, it's like these people, it's like they are half-baked. You know how half-baked thing cannot be eaten or cannot be applied anywhere. I want to give you an example. One of the problems that we have in Uganda now is unemployment anyway. But unemployment is caused by not creating jobs. Not to have hands
The line is terrible now. We cannot hear you very well, unfortunately, but we had a few of the suggestions you're making and some of the comments that you made. Point taken. Let me come back to the studio, and Dr. Nakabugo, you're parting short as you've listened also to what people had to say.
I think the issue of rethinking the assessment system is coming out strongly. And I think deciding as a nation on those measurable outcomes that we want to see at the end of every level, we are lamenting about the poor performance at UCE, the O-level results. But what is it that we set as a nation, what we wanted these students to demonstrate at the end of Senior 4? Such that the assessment system, the teaching and learning and assessment, is tailored to enabling the students to achieve exactly what we set out to test. If we want these students to be critical thinkers, if you want them to be creative, did we set that as the outcome, and that the teaching and learning was geared to that, and that the assessment system is actually assessing that? Because what we actually tend to assess is what is actually treasured in the system. Yeah.
Henry Nixon Ogwa.
Yeah.
Well, we needed 6 hours. But my parting shot is that we must strongly link our education to the communities, to the families, to the workplaces. Education is not just a domain of a teacher in the classroom. That's why we are ending up where we are. Secondly, we need to strongly bring a very strong link between our education planning with the national development planning, so that we are actually not only looking at developing the workforce for our economy, but also integrated in the current global world. Unless we do this, and we remain that it is about assessment of the A's and 4's, we will not go very far.
Patrick, your parting shot.
Three things. One, I think the future of curriculum development in this nation should be market-led. We should, especially I'm speaking on the side of tertiary institutions and universities, this whole thing of university bashing is not really good. Yes, I understand we are having graduates that are loitering all over the streets, and some of them, their skills are less than desirable. But let us change that by guiding the curriculum development to suit the market. You come at the Institute of Petroleum Studies right now, the people we are training, we're not going to get jobs because we are following what the market is demanding. One. Number two, let us go to the class. The kind of teaching that is, lecturing that is purely centered on the teacher who stands there and tells the students what they should know is wrong, because a teacher is not omniscient. They cannot know everything. We need teaching that is engaging, where there is inquiry, where there is an inquisition, there's asking questions and answers and engaging students, and group work, which should be pushed a lot. And finally, I do agree with everybody on the panel and those that called that we totally need to integrate technical education at all levels, especially in the short to medium term, to address the big problem of unemployment that we have across the board.
Thank you very much. I think this discussion is going to continue on on social media, and maybe we can bring the same discussion another time so that it appears this is very important. And thank you very much for being a part of this. Dr. Mary Gorit Nakabogo, thank you for your time. Henry Nixon Ogwao, thank you very much. And my OB and homeboy, Patrick Raruza, thank you very much. Thank you, Uganda. Good night, and God bless our country.